Hello, America, and welcome to my latest podcast of The American Patriot. My name is R. Leland Avellino, and this is The American Patriot. Folks, I just wanted a chance to talk with you some 20 days before the presidential election, which in my opinion will be the most important presidential election in my lifetime. And in order for the people to make an informed decision as to who is the best choice for the President of the United States, I needed to bring some things to your attention, which you're not getting from the mainstream media, because they're in a propaganda campaign to protect and to shield Kamala Harris from information that you need to know. First, we already know about her flip-flopping of her positions on both the border wall, immigration, healthcare for illegal immigrants, transgender changes without parents' permission, on the taxpayer dollar. All of these things that she, over the past several years, has been in agreement with, and now she flip-flops her policies and says she no longer agrees with those principles. I just need to tell you that, in my humble opinion, Kamala Harris is a chameleon, as long and as well as a pathological liar. She just did an interview today with Bret Baier on Fox, where he tried to ask her some poignant questions. And of course, as expected, she would not answer the questions that were posed to her. But what she had in mind in the 20 minutes that she allowed Fox to interview her was simply to filibuster and continue to say her talking points and to not answer the questions specifically that were being asked to her. So, for whatever your beliefs are as far as Donald Trump, we know his record. He was a president for 4 years in the United States and had many good policies that he put in effect. The Abraham Accords, he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. He had the border secured, was building the border wall after he had to fight with Congress and fight with the Democrats, who at the time were in control of the House of Representatives. And finally, he had to go through court to allow monies that he had available to be used to build a border wall. And that was like halfway through his administration before he finally got to start building the wall. He had the stay in Mexico policy, where people who were seeking asylum to come into the United States had to stay in Mexico to be vetted first, rather than be brought into the United States the way they're being brought in now through the Biden-Harris policies. And again, Joe Biden on day one in his administration signed 93 executive orders, basically doing away with all the executive orders that Donald Trump had placed in effect to handle the border and to also stop the fracking and stop the oil independence and natural gas independence that Trump was working toward in his presidency here with the United States. These are all indisputable facts. But yet when Biden came into office, he shut down the XL pipeline. He stopped all drilling for oil on government property, such as Anwar Province of Alaska, which has unlimited oil and natural gas resources there. He stopped fracking, and they started buying more oil from other countries, which was less clean than the United States oil that we produce and the United States natural gas. Now, Kamala Harris has been in office for over 1,400 days. And when asked, Madam Vice President, if you have so many plans and so many things that you want to do from day one that you become President of the United States, then with all due respect, why haven't you done them in the 1,400 days that you've been in office? And of course, she has no answer. The only way she can answer is to go on talking points and filibuster. And again, her biggest thing is to constantly belittle Donald Trump, to say that it's because of Donald Trump that this happened, because of Donald Trump's policies that happened. Donald Trump hasn't been in office for almost 4 years now. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been in office, but yet they've done nothing to help the immigration problem at the border, only make it worse, has done nothing to increase our oil independence here in the United States, has had their regulatory agencies put on so many regulations that it's almost impossible to drill for oil here in the United States. We already know that their foreign policy is a disaster. There's wars going on in the Middle East now that were never going on when Donald Trump was in office. Israel is fighting Iran and Lebanon and all their proxies from Iran, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas down in the Gaza Strip. And all the Biden-Harris administration has done is to try to put handcuffs on Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli people to keep them from winning that war in the Middle East. They've slow walked or stopped all of the arms that Congress has approved to be sent to Israel, where in actuality, those weapon systems that are going to Israel are not going to show up for 1 to 2 years in the future. But yet Kamala Harris wants to say that, oh yes, we stand behind Israel in their war against Hamas. No, they haven't. And then when Donald Trump talks about the enemy from within, this is a concept that has been talked about since Abraham Lincoln, who also mentioned in his speeches the enemy from within. Thomas Jefferson mentioned this enemy from within. Ronald Reagan mentioned the enemy from within. And I submit to you, in my humble opinion, that these anti-Semitic protesters that are protesting at these colleges in the United States, saying death to Israel, death to America, from the river to the sea, etc., 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 are an enemy from within. And the Biden and Harris administration have done absolutely nothing to stop this. They have controls over money that goes to these colleges, where they could tell these university presidents that we do not want these protests going on, these anti-Semitic, anti-American protests, bringing in Palestinian flags, burning the American flags, etc., so on and so forth. Or we will stop funding your colleges, which the government has the ability to do. But what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have refused to do. Rarely, if ever, do they even speak about all the anti-Semitism going on at the college campuses. So these things are what America needs to consider before the next 20 days comes and November 5th comes around and the most important presidential election in the country occurs. Americans need to know how these candidates think and how they would act if they were president. We already know how Donald Trump will act because he's done so in the past and has told us how he will act. Kamala Harris, you can't seem to get any answers out of her because she won't take interviews. And when she does answer a question, she just filibusters and goes into her common, typical speeches. Look, I was raised in a middle-class family, and on and on. Well, first, let me be the first to tell you, she was not raised in a middle-class family. Her father was a Marxist, and both of her father and mother were PhDs who taught at Stanford. So if nothing, she grew in the very high end of the middle class or the lower end of the upper class. She claims she worked at McDonald's when she went through college. This is just simply not true because no McDonald's in the area where she went to college has said that she ever worked there over any of the years that she was in college. So again, she is along the line of Joe Biden, basically a pathological liar. We know how many times Joe Biden has lied in the past. And now we find out that Kamala Harris's first book was rife with plagiarism. And it was brought to the attention by a a plagiarist person from Germany who is an expert in this subject and brought to the attention all the 15 or 20 times that Kamala Harris plagiarized in her first book. First, the Harris administration would have no comment on it. And then when she did comment on it, she claimed that she had placed the proper footnotes and acknowledgments in her book, giving credit to the people who she had used their quotes. Folks, I'm here to tell you, I've looked at her book. There is no footnotes in her book regarding this at all. So again, another lie from Kamala Harris. So what I'm trying to do is simply tell the American people, you need to take a good look at who do you want to run your country for the next 4 years. Because inflation is out of control. We all know that. Started with the Biden and Harris administration. I know all of my listeners are smart enough and they've gone to the grocery store and the gas station pump and paid their electric bill and paid their utility bills enough, watched their car insurance skyrocket, the price for automobiles skyrocket under Biden and Harris. They've watched used cars skyrocketed. All these things have gone up. Inflation has gone up and up. Just look at the grocery store the next time you go there. So it's not possible for people to say inflation is under control or things are under control, because it's simply not the case. So all I ask is that my listening public out there, who I know are the smartest in America, to just use your brain, think with common sense and clarity, and make an informed decision of who you want to be your president for the next 4 years. So until next time, this is your host of American Patriot, R. Leland Avellino, saying thanks for listening and take care.